Hello, everyone. My name is Calantha Tillotson. I am the Human Resources Librarian here at Lynchide Library. And today what I'm going to do is I want to go over how to create an APA template. Because as you may know, or at least you will know soon, as a Human Resources student, you will need to create a template that you can follow through the rest of your time through Human Resources classes. So hopefully this will help you out. So first off, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and open up Word. So just a forewarning, what we're going to be using is Word 2016. This is the Word that will be on all the on all the reference computers here at the library. So if you can, feel free to come and use one of the reference computers if you do not have Word 2016 with your own device. So what you will need to do first, obviously, is open up Word. So once you have opened up Word and create a blank document, we're going to start by creating the running header. So what you will need to do is you click on Insert. You're going to click over here and do Page Number. You're going to go to Top of Page, and we're going to click on Plain Number 3. Now you're going to need to click on Different First Page, which will kind of erase what you just did, which is silly, but that's the easiest way I found to be able to create this. So then you're going to go over here and click on Top of Page, and then Plain Number 3 again. Then we're going to backspace twice, and we're going to type in running head, just like that. Then we're going to put a colon, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put title all in caps because that's where the title is going to be, and it will need to be all in caps. Now you're going to want to make sure you don't do your full title because, as we know, some of these titles can get pretty long. So make sure that you're only using like a shortened title. So if your title is something like Elephants in the United States, reservations and conservation, something like that. What you will need to do is just do something like elephants conservation or something like that. Just make sure that it's all in caps. Now we're going to tab it back over. We're going to highlight the whole header and change it from Calibri. I think it's Calibri. We're going to change it to Times New Roman because APA will be Times New Roman, and that tends to be what your professor will ask you to use anyway. Then we're going to go ahead and close the header. So now that we've created the header, what we need to do is we actually need to create the title page. So what you want to do is just kind of click down, click enter a couple of times, and then we're going to go up here to the alignment, and we're going to align center. Then we're just going to click, I'm just going to type in title because, again, this is just a sample and I don't know what your title might be. It does not need to be all in caps. It just needs to be regular capitalization, just like you would type any other wording. Then the next thing is, with the next line, you're going to want to do author. So this will generally be your name, but it might also, if you are co-writing this, doing like group paper, you might need to include other people's names as well. And then the last thing will generally be the university you're affiliated with. So obviously East Central University. There might be a couple other lines. So I know I've worked with some students in your department that has to include something like the date or the actual class that they're in. There is not an actual APA kind of requirement for how you put that in. As long as you include these three elements, you can include the rest just in other lines. So we could just do the date, we could do class, those kind of things. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and do the title, the authors, and the university. So that's going to be the title page. The next thing you're going to need to do is go ahead, we're going to do the abstract next. So that needs to go on a completely different page. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to Insert and then Page Break. So this starts an entirely new page for us. So you notice that the header is not up there at the top, and that's actually, it's meant to be that way because we clicked a different first page, and you want it to be that way because otherwise there will be the running head in all of the pages, and you just want that on the title page. So for the next one, what we're going to do, go to page number. We're going to do top of the page just like we did before, and then plain number 3. So you might not see, there's my face. Let's move me over. So again, we do it just like we did before. We're going to backspace it, and then instead of including running head, it's just going to be the shortened title. So like we talked about before, elephant conservation. Then we're going to tab over to where it is aligned properly. You notice that it's actually changed back to Calibri, so we're going to highlight it and then change this to Times New Roman and 12. Okay, so once we've finished the header, we're going to close the header and footer, and then now what you're going to be doing is the abstract. I hope everybody remembers what an abstract is. Basically, you just need to remember that it's going to be like the summary of your paper. Not all of your professors will require you to have an abstract, but there might be a possibility. So in that case, I'm going to include it in this template. So what we do is we go ahead and just type abstract. Again, you might notice that it's changed back to Calibri, so make sure it is Times New Roman. So again, you might see that it doesn't have to be a specific, it doesn't have to be bolded or italicized, it's just going to be the word abstract. Actually, now that I see it, our title page is Calibri as well, so make sure you highlight that and then change it to Times New Roman and 12. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to click Enter. And then we're going to actually align it up here. We're going to change the alignment to left because only abstract needs to be centered. And then we tab over, and I'm just going to write paragraph because literally it will just be a paragraph. The next element you may not need to include, but usually when you include an abstract, you're going to want to make sure you look at your assignment requirements to make sure whether or not this is something your professor wants, but it's a possibility. So I'm going to include it. So we create a new line, and then we tab it over, and this is what's called keywords. So what we need to do is we italicize it, and we just type in keywords, and then put a colon. So then we will unitalicize it, and the keywords could be literally anything. So again, if we're going to be doing elephants, we could say elephants, and then a comma, and then conservation. That's a possibility. It literally could just be anything. There does not need to be a period after the last one. You just need to make sure you include commas in between each keyword. Okay, so now that we've finished that, we are going to click Enter again. And so the abstract actually goes on its own page. So the next section we need to include is the actual paper itself. So what we do is we click, we enter a new page break. So we go to Insert, Page Break, and now we're on a completely new page. So we're going to want to include the title in the first page of the actual paper. In order to do that, we're going to want to go back to Home and then Align Center. So just like we did with the abstract, it'll be Align Center, and we'll just do the title. So like on the title page, it doesn't need to be bolded or anything like that. It doesn't need to be all in caps. It's just the title. Then you will include your introduction paragraph. So I'm just going to do paragraph. And then there are different levels of headings that you might include. Now, when I say heading, it's generally going to be like the different sections of the paper you need to include. So literature review, there might be methodology, there might be, well, it honestly depends on which class you're in and what your professor wants you to include. So title, that's going to be the first header. But actually, that actually doesn't count as a header because then underneath that, we are going to be doing the first sections. So what that'll need to do is we're going to need to, again, center it, just like we did with the title. We're going to bold it. So we click bold. And then I'm going to just type heading 1. So in my elephant conservation paper, maybe this one is, well, the literature review tends to be the very first one. Okay, and then the first heading will actually get its own paragraph underneath it. So literature review, and then you'll actually have the full literature review. We're going to go ahead and align left again, and I'm just going to type paragraph because there's probably going to be several paragraphs, but just remember that, oh, and spell it correctly. There we go. Just remember that there will generally be a paragraph or more after a heading number 1. The next thing is heading 2. So let's say methodology is a little broader. Okay, so let's say instead, one of my sections is the history of whatever the topic is. So in this case, it would be history of elephant conservation, and maybe I'm going to be breaking that up into different sections. So we could say the 1800s, 1900s, 2000s. So those could be our headings underneath the broad heading of history. So in that case, we would do the second heading, and it's going to be off to the left. So this is where I would actually be saying, so let's say this is the 1800s. So I would make sure it's bolded, just like heading 1. And so it's like heading 1, but again, it's going to be left aligned instead of center aligned. Okay, and then underneath that, you might find yourself in need of additional sections. So instead of the broader section of literature review or methodology, or in my case, I was saying history, and then there was the second headings that was saying, like the 1800s, so the different eras. Maybe underneath that, I might want to say early century, mid-century, end century. So in that case, what I could do is, so I would do a third level of heading. So I'm going to tab it over just a little bit. It's still going to be bolded, just like heading 1 and heading 2, and it would just be tabbed slightly over, and it's going to have a period right after the heading. Okay, and then underneath there, I'm running out of examples, but it's possible that you might need to do subheading. So it's like at this point, it's subheading. So in that case, let me just go ahead and show you the 2 other types of headings that you might use. So we're going to do a new line. We're going to tab over. And then the heading 4 level will actually be bolded and italicized. So we're going to do heading 4 and with a period, just like heading 3. And then I'm going to do heading 5. So if we click enter, we tab over, we're actually going to just get rid of the bold and the italics, and it's just going to be, no, I'm sorry, we're going to get rid of the bold, but we will keep the italics, and it'll just be heading 5. So I know that sounds like a whole heck of a lot. It might be a little confusing for you, but I promise once you actually get into the paper, you'll realize which headings you might need, and this is just a guide to follow. So every paper, you might have papers that just use heading 1, and that's totally fine. But if you do run into this situation, I want you to have those in your templates. And again, if you have any questions at all, I'm your girl, and at the end of this, I will run over how to get a hold of me. So now that we've finished the headings, we're actually going to go to the reference page. So make sure to click out of the italics, and then we're going to enter a page break, just like we did before. So we do insert, page break, and now we're on the 4th page. The reference, the actual word reference, will go at the top. It'll actually be references, and it'll look just like the title right here, or the abstract. So we're going to center it. We're not going to bold or italicize, and we're just going to click in references. And then we are going to click enter and start a new line. Now let's actually go over some of the major types of references that you might need to include, and so we'll actually include those in your template. The first one will probably be an article. We use a lot of those articles, and that's good. Those are very great references. So let's go ahead and left align, because that's how you're going to need to start each reference. And then for an article, the elements that you need to include will be the last name of the person. And then you will need to include the initial. So it will be the first initial. You might also include a middle initial. It really just depends on the information given at the top of each article that you're looking at. Then we'll need to include the year. So in this case, let's say I wrote it, it would be Tillotson, comma, C, period. And then let's say I wrote it in 2001. I didn't, but let's say that I did. We're going to include a period after that. Then we're actually going to be doing the article title. So that will be something like this. So we have the article. You notice I have a capitalized A and then a lowercase t. As you may be aware, if you're not, now you can learn. You will need to make sure that your titles only have the first letter capitalized. And then after that, it would only be if you include a name or some sort of proper noun. So in my case, if I wrote a paper about, elephants in the United States, I would need to include capitalize U in United and S in States. Okay, the next thing would be the journal title, and make sure that that is italicized. So we're going to go up here, click on italics, and then we're just going to type in journal title. And then click a comma, because there will need to be a comma. The next thing will be volume number. Now, if you're confused by volume number versus issue number, think of it as a television show. So every television show has seasons and episodes. So the volume number will be the number of the season that you're in, and then the issue number will be the number of the episode for that season. So in this case, maybe it's the 5th season, so the 5th year that this journal has been published, and the 2nd time, so that would be the 2nd issue for that year. So you can think of it that way. So in this case, we're going to do volume number, and that's still going to be italicized, but the next part won't. So I'll go ahead and click out of italics. I'm going to do a parentheses. We're going to do issue number, and then an in parentheses and a comma. Then the last element, depending on if you get a print journal or from an actual electronic journal, this may be the last element. And it's going to be the page numbers. So you'll do the beginning page number to the ending page number. So you notice we're now on a new line. So there is a rule about this. The new line will have to be indented over. So let's go ahead and click next to it. We're going to go backspace, enter, and then tab over. Okay, so this is how you would end it if it's a print article. If it's from an electronic article, then you'll need to include one of two elements. The first might be the URL. So in that case, we're going to do retrieved from and then URL. The second thing, you might see a DOI number. So in that case, I'm just going to put this in parentheses just in case. It would be DOI colon and then the actual, it would be DOI colon. You wouldn't have to include it in parentheses if this was the actual number, and then it's just a bunch of numbers. So you would include that instead of retrieve from. But mostly it will be a URL. So we're just going to keep retrieve from URL. The second one that you might use is an actual book. Now this is shorter. There's not as many elements, and some of it is the same. So for instance, it will be the author's name first. So last name, first initial, middle initial, if there is a middle initial. There'll be the year, in parentheses, and then a period, and then there will be the actual book title. Now this will need to be in italics, just like the journal title. So we're going to go over, click italics, and then actually do book title. Title. So the same capitalization rules apply, just like with the article title up for the article one. We're going to click out of italics. And then the next section is the publisher information. So the first part will be the city name. I'm sorry, spell that right. City name. We're going to do a colon, and then we're actually going to do the publisher name. And then we will do a period at the end. And then the last one is a web page. You might end up doing a web page. Some of those elements, again, will be the same. We do the last name, comma, first name, year. Now, usually you'll need to include the year, the month, and then the day for the actual date information. And then it'll be the title of the web page, and then retrieved from. And then that will be it. The rest, that's really generally what you will need to include. If you have to include appendices, let me know, and I can show you how to add that to the template. The last thing you'll need to do is make sure you save it correctly. So we're going to go up here. We're going to click the little save button right here. Make sure that, I would suggest you either save it to a flash drive or you save it to your H drive. So right here I have my H drive. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to say, you know, APA template. And then right here when it says Word document, I'm going to actually change it to Word template. Yes, so I had already created one today, so that's what it's going to look like. You're going to go ahead and save it. And then now you will have your template. And you can use it for the rest of your career here at ECU. Now, the last thing I was going to show you was how to get in touch with me. How you'll need to do that is you're going to, I'm going to click out of this, you're going to need to go ahead and open up the browser. You will need to go to the library's homepage, so that's library.ecok.edu. And then I suggest you actually go to either your course guide or your research guide. So we're going to click on Library Research Guides, Human Resources. You'll notice there's a whole lot of different course guides. We're actually going to just click on the subject guide, so just the overall Human Resources guide. And then you notice right here, I am your librarian, just like I said. So you can email me directly from here. You can schedule an appointment, or you can call me. Here's my phone number right here. So yeah, I just want to leave you with the suggestion that if you have anything that you need, please let me know. I would love to be able to help you, and I am here for you, whatever you might need. So that is basically everything I needed to show you. I hope that this was helpful, and I look forward to working with you. Okay, bye.